Hmm. Boy, this got shit on by critics a lot. But fans, from what I've seen on Twitter, are loving it. Salutations everyone, I'm Nirby Koshi, and I'm here reviewing my, uh, reviewing, I mean recording my review of Rebel Moon. This is Zack Snyder's, I believe, third original work that is not an adaptation to anything. First being Sucker Punch and second being Army of the Dead. Um, I'm not gonna judge this movie by his previous works of like adaptations, more like his original work and how he's great as a writer with original work than actually adapting source material. Because mainly judge the creator with his own ideas than stuff that he adapted that was other people's ideas. Like, I say that Snyder has a vision when it comes to movies that comes from his brain, comes from his head, that he created. He does great with what he does, uh, with the movies he makes, that he writes. I say he has a vision for them, and he always likes to capture those visuals that he wants to, from concept art that you would see from his that he wants to do in his for the film. And usually the concept arts he has for those movies he does translate beautifully on the screen. Because when he does, like, I say a shot, when it comes to like original stuff he does, I say that, with, for example, Sucker Punch, I say that it looks like wallpaper. Like, kind of like with Godzilla King of the Monsters, I say that a lot of scenes you see in the film could, with like some shots, can be used as a desktop wallpaper that you can use on your computer. And I can think of a lot of cool shots that he does in Sucker Punch that I would definitely want on my desktop. Uh, I think with Sucker Punch, I feel like that movie was kind of like, I, in my opinion, kind of like a live action anime in a way, and it feels like that. And this movie could have easily be animated and more visually stunning than live action. Yet somehow Snyder does great with making the live action look amazing. Even with, I will cheat here, the DC movies, that when you see stuff that Batman does in Batman v Superman, when he's fighting a bunch of these henchmen, it felt like something from the Arkham games. And he must have taken inspiration from that. Just like how I feel like he's taken inspiration from a lot of different, like, maybe animated stuff from in Sucker Punch, and then translate it to live action the best way he could. And you can tell there is a lot of inspiration of stuff that he's watched that he wanted to do in his movie, and he wants to capture it and put his own spin to it. And I say that he does a great job with that. Sucker Punch is his best original work still, in my opinion. I first saw that movie when I rented it at a Redbox because I thought it looked like shit from the trailers when it came out to theaters. And I've been told by a lot of people that don't watch this movie. It's bad. You're not going to have a good time. And then I watched it for the first time, and I actually enjoyed it more than I enjoyed the trailer. um, and when I got the extended cut, I enjoyed it even more. And I was like, yes, this is actually pretty cool. But hearing that Snyder said that there is a Snyder cut of Sucker Punch out there, I really hope that gets released sometime in the future because I want to know what was cut from the movie. Maybe there's actually, baby doll dancing in the movie, or maybe not. I don't know. I'm very curious to wonder what that Snyder cut of Sucker Punch is. Army of the Dead, I had mixed feelings about it in some aspects. Um, Kind of like with his ending scene in Justice League, where I just wasn't a fan of this camera direction that he was doing in Army of the Dead. I've kind of gotten like annoyed by it. I feel like when he did it, I just thought it was thought it was annoying. I thought it was like so many shots where he felt like he was so obsessed with the whole like making things zoom in, zoom out to become blurry, then clear, constantly in that film. And some of the action like things, like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and I kind of wasn't a fan of that in Army of the Dead, especially when he did it again in Justice League to film like one more Batman scene. I was like, this is this feels stupid because it felt so out of place in the Snyder cut. This new scene that he filmed, because it felt very because you can tell which shots were filmed when he was still working with Warner and seeing, and then you see that scene where it was clearly during his time working with Netflix when he was making Army of the Dead. And eh, I'm just not a fan of it. Some of the action scenes are good. I like that. The movie story, its plot, I thought was entertaining. An original, honestly, because I don't think a zombie movie has done that before. Where, hey, we're gonna pull off a heist, where we're gonna go and get all this money in a zombie infested Las Vegas. And I thought that was awesome. I thought it was also awesome that they skipped the whole like people surviving the apocalypse in Vegas and just get straight to the aftermath. I thought that was cool too, because that whole intro they did with the showing everyone, showing like the start of the zombie outbreak to like the middle portion of the zombie outbreak where everyone's trying to escape, I thought was really good. I thought that was like the best intro of in 2020 when that movie released. I was like, that was cool. I like that. That was awesome. And I think he pulled it off perfectly. The lore with the zombies, though, I was very mixed about. And some character actions, I kind of was like, what the fuck? And also stuff that doesn't make sense at the end of the movie where you're like, wait a minute. I thought you turn instantly when you get bit. That doesn't make any sense. Um, and then there's the whole. What I mean by the zombie lore is that there was this thing that Snyder did that I was like confused about, and I was like wondering, did he really need to add that detail? Because I feel like you're confusing more of your audience than actually getting them interested in learning about this. Because how the fuck does a zombie robot exist? I mean, I've heard of zombie robots, like robot zombies that try to kill other robots by getting their energy from them, like their life source, but not like, oh, a robot zombie that will bite you and you also turn like a zombie and for some reason a robot. Not and something like, huh? It confused me more. I mean, I bought the whole zombies getting pregnant thing more than the robot zombie part. I was like, huh? Rebel Moon, I say, for me, who which is the more which is his most recent work of originality in Snyder's the Snyder originality, if I might say, Snyderality. I say was a return to form. That's what I'm saying. It feels like a return to form where it's the more widescreen aspect ratio, uh, the slow motion action scenes. This felt like original Snyder in a way where he is focused more on the visual look of the film and also making the characters look otherworldly and badass in a way with different types of cool costumes. Kind of like, again, with Sucker Punch. And I think this is like, it's taking me back to him when he did Sucker Punch with all the action scenes. Sucker Punch, 300, I think a bit of Watchmen as well, um, in the ways of like the action scenes and all that. I say with stunt choreography and visual look and worlds, like all the different like CGI like cities or landscapes that he's done via green screen, obviously, and of course, you know, that typical Snyder filter where it's like very brown, muddy colors. But here I feel like there was a tad bit more color in this world more than usual. Like, usually there'd be like mute colors in like something like, again, Sucker Punch. But here you can feel like in some areas the different types of moods in certain parts in the movie. Like, you can feel like the warmth of like a village in that film when you see the sun coming up, or like you feel like the cold night in some cases in that same area as well, or like this dark and damp area in like this one mining city that feels a bit hot and humid but also cool and like underground parts uh, that you see that I thought was good. I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good. Like, there was a lot of things that I felt more better with the color grading, or like the aspect of like seeing like all the different moods of how you feel in this entire area that you are in some parts of the movie. Even like this deserty, like kind of Spartan planet. Again, like 300, I had that feeling of 300 in there, or Spartacus, or Ben Hur in a way. Seeing just like uh, or Gladiator, if we're gonna talk about something more recent, uh, and seeing like all the, like this big coliseum of people fighting in, seeing like the blood like trail tracking after like uh gladiator getting slaughtered out there. I thought that was cool. Um, there's a lot of cool shots there. There was like this one that I, for some reason, like when we see this one character fly this giant like bird creature, I think it looks like a griffin. It looks like a griffin to me, like a black griffin. Uh, and I for some reason when I saw him flying this guy flying this griffin, it kind of reminded me of Harry Potter when Harry was trying to ride Buckbeak and tame Buckbeak, in a way. It kind of felt like that in a way, trying to build a bond and connection to this animal before you ride it. But the flying stuff, which is this is a deep cut here because not a lot of people know this. The whole flying stuff, like I noticed, which some people would not probably get the first half of the way, um, is the flapping of the wings, like the feathers that you see flapping through the air. You see, and the bird like flying through the air, and all like the scenes of it, like beautiful shots of the bird flying, this supposed griffin looking creature, uh, like seeing it fly through the air, flying through the mountains and everything. This is a deep cut saying this. It reminded me of a Zack Snyder film that he doesn't talk about much, and not a lot of people talk about much too because it was kind of a forgettable movie anyway. Is Guardians, uh, Legend of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole. If anyone remembers that movie, this was like Zack Snyder's one and only animated feature film that he did. That no one talks about. I think Nostalgia Critic did an episode about that movie. We should go check it out if you want. Uh, and the whole flapping of the wings and the feathers like moving felt like all the flying scenes in that movie kind of made me think back on uh Legend of the Guardians, which was weird that that made me think of it immediately. Two things: Prisoner of Azkaban and Guardian Owls of Ga'Hoole. Like, who the fuck remembers that? Me, I guess. um, I thought that was beautiful too. Even like this fight scene with this giant spider lady and this woman called Nemesis. No relation to the Nemesis from Resident Evil 3. Her like I just liked her look. Again, I'm reminded of other stuff too. But I love this look in general. That felt like I don't know the style of it, but I guess it is ancient, like Japanese kind of like attire from back in the day with these types of warriors in Japan. And because there is a lot of like I think Japanese kind of inspiration from architecture in like this city or this town, uh, in the first scene of the in the first act of the film where they're about to assemble the team. Um, and it did felt like feudal Japan kind of architecture with the whole like design and everything. In my opinion, that's what it looked like. And then especially like kind of like a westerny kind of town from the inside, especially when they're going to this bar, which is kind of like um again like an inspiration of Star Wars where they go to the cantina, which does he rip off the cantina scene from Star Wars? I mean, if you want a real rip off of the cantina scene from Star Wars, watch fucking Force Awakens because that was a blatant ripoff right there that they couldn't think of anything original. Here, it felt like Zack Snyder was like, I'm gonna do the cantina scene, but what if the cantina scene was rated R and more scummy, more creepy, more uh, more unsafe than the one from Star Wars that was more geared towards kids. I'm and let's gear this towards adults and see something freaky. And they do that where there's like the mentioning of sex slaves and also like these other different types of creatures that can just possess your body to make you talk like their own personal puppet, which was like, that was freaky there, but that was pretty fucking cool. Um, there was this bartender that was like so built. I think it was a I don't know if it was an alien or robot, but it was like it was like it looked like a bright neon light truck from Japan that you see driving, kind of like that, like the headlights. It was this alien was full of headlights. It's just like what the hell. It looked interesting. The creatures looked interesting in that bar, and then some creatures look typically like I've seen these types of creatures before in other movies, like this weird tentacly monster kind of like alien that was on this different planet they go to. I was like, that looks similar to an alien I've seen in Star Wars. But, I kind of let that slide because I've seen other blatant rip-off Star Wars looking aliens in other movies that were worse than that. I can't think of the movie now, but when I saw it, I was like, that just looks like there was like what movie it was. There was a movie that felt like a rip off of a different like creature. Like, oh, it was Rampage. Rampage. When I saw the movie Rampage, I was like, that's just King Kong if you just made him white and albino. you just you just used the same model. You didn't do anything creative. Um, there was oh my god, there's a lot of good shots in this movie that I could talk about with the action scenes. That felt good. It felt like that. I'm getting Snyder nostalgia with the action scenes that make me think of 300 or Sucker Punch or stuff because in most recent films, usually he is more fast paced and less slow motiony. In recent films he's done for the past few years, and now it feels like a return to form, kind of, with this one that I liked. I think, oh, there was a good shot where they're like camping in the mountains on the fire, and this good shot of them like sitting there, and there's like a planet, like this huge ass planet in the background, and it's like it felt like not a rising sun. I mean, but it had like the rising sun kind of feel in the Japan flag of you know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to describe it right. And it's but it looks like Saturn rising or not rising. No. It looks like like a sunset, like a sunset. That's what I'm trying to say. It looked like a sunset. Like it looks like Saturn is setting down, which I thought was like that's pretty cool of a visual. Visual, especially this. It felt Star Wars too. This one, I'm sorry if I'm comparing it, but then again, Snyder said he took inspiration from mainly Star Wars and Dune, and this shot I liked because there was like it was like the title card, and the title card is like Rebel Moon, and it just like kind of like it scrolls down to the planet, and it also like has and you could see like the shadows kind of like uh, over like the words, and I was like, oh, that's actually cool. Just to get panned down and go to Sophia Boutell's character Kora. Kora, where have I heard that name before? Anyway, uh, which I thought was pretty good way to go and introduce your movie. Exposition in the beginning about this world and what has happened, what politics are happening in this world, what is going on, what's the current state of government and affairs, what war is happening. Again, like Star Wars, in a way, which I think I'm the comparisons I'm saying here is that these are critics saying that there was too many inspirations to like other better sci-fi films. People saying that critics saying that the exposition kills it because it felt hollow. It felt like I don't know this world. I don't know these characters. These people are just Gary or Mary Sue's or whatever. I think, but then again, that was kind of Star Wars in the beginning with New Hope. Who is this old man? He's a wise old man, which we've seen many times before. A wise old man that is this part of this ancient, uh, part of these ancient warrior, uh, um, this ancient, these part of these ancient warriors that were that were deemed as a myth. And who is this? This young farm boy who will be learning the ways because he also has the abilities like these ancient warriors. Like, it's been done before, even with Star Wars. What did Star Wars do? It took inspiration from other stuff as well. Like, there's nothing wrong with taking inspiration from something and creating something original with it if and trying not to be a blatant rip off of it. There's a lot of people that have done that before. Like, I was inspired by this. I was inspired by that. I was inspired by a lot of things when I made my characters, when I made my universe of characters when I was a teenager. I was inspired by building a cinematic universe when Marvel did it when it was popular at the time. I remember taking inspiration from anime or cartoons that I grew up with and then making my own characters with them from what I've learned. It's kind of the norm, taking inspiration of stuff that you grew up with, which a lot of directors, a lot of writers have done before. And Zack Snyder is no different than people who want to make an original film by stuff they were inspired by that they liked in the past. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, and people are like, whatever, it's exposition-y as hell. And New Hope wasn't. New Hope wasn't exposition-y as hell. Have you not seen the original script for that movie? I don't know. It's like I'm trying to defend Snyder here with what the critics are saying because sometimes critics are like stupid and they're clearly not grasping things because they're saying I feel like they're doing the whole new thing bad, old thing good conversation. Like, back in my day, there was something better than this that everyone liked, and I think it was Star Wars. Like, yeah, but not a lot of people grasped on Star Wars right away. Hell, 20th Century Fox thought they had a flop in their hands, and they didn't care that if the movie did bad or good. They're just like thinking, whatever. We don't want the rights to this. George Lucas has all the rights to it, so who cares? He gets all the money, he gets all the profits. And then once Star Wars was a success, they regretted their decisions and their life choices. Is I'm not saying Snyder's the next Lucas. far from it. But I say that he is doing something that I'm actually happy about, and that is making an original IP. And I do like it when people make original IPs. I like people who want to make original stuff. I like people who take a risk and say, hey, I'm going to make something original, and I'm going to hopefully cross my fingers and say, this is going to go well. And I kind of hope this does well because Rebel Moon does show promise of being the next big sci-fi franchise because, I think the world is desperate for a new original IP that isn't Star Wars, that isn't Marvel, that isn't DC, that isn't Star Trek, that isn't like, remember this thing and remember that thing? Because usually sometimes people just do terrible with it and say, remember the time? And then it's like, yes, I remember the time, but can we please do something original here for once? Because I have been starving for original stuff recently that hopefully would be good, but sometimes the original stuff that people make is usually bad. Like almost every Dwayne the Rock Johnson movie that gets released, where he's like, "Look at me, I'm like Lupin the Third in this movie, where I'm stealing ancient artifacts and shit," and it's like, and also there's comedy in it. Also, I'm The Rock, and everything I do is gospel. But who cares? Yes, you kind of ruined the DCEU, Rock. um, there, I say that Snyder is doing something good here, and I'm glad that he's trying to make something that is his creation, and him hopefully seeing that this becomes a big franchise that people can expand lore on, and it's promising. Like, either this movie becomes just you know, a small fad and say, like, the story's over for these characters, and I guess people will not expand further on this lore, and Snyder is left with that small little franchise he has of Rebel Moon in Netflix, and, you know, it'll be fine. I mean, Army of the Dead didn't start out well. People liked the one movie, but then Snyder was like, hey, we're going to expand the lore of it, and we're going to make more movies of it. And everyone was like, oh, Snyder, I thought this was a one-time thing. Because people didn't like the idea of this being a zombie cinematic universe. And again, seeing those two UFOs at the beginning of Army of the Dead, well, I'm guessing the Army of the Dead movies are connected to Rebel Moon, which is kind of odd. The more you think about it, that well, we live in a world where there's robot zombies and a alien race of people trying to fight these fascist space Nazis. um, Now, I talked long enough about how this movie is visually stunning and cocaine for the eyes, but what about the characters in general? Do I like them? Are they memorable? Are they cool? They are cool. They do look nice. That woman I talked about that had these blades that she fought the spider lady from reminded me kind of like the same outfit style that the Kubo's aunts wore in Kubo and the Two Strings. Um, if you guys know what I'm talking about. Um, and there was, Dejum Hansu, hopefully I'm saying his name right, looking badass as usual, looking like a fallen warrior, all fat and pudgy, and also an alcoholic, but looking pretty kind of cool. I was like, but then again, it's Jimon Hansu. Of course, he always looks badass. He always looks badass. Like every, even when he's not in an action movie, the man looks like a total badass. Like you can't you can't say he's not. uh, Even when I first saw him in Blood Diamond, I was like, that man's awesome. I hope he's in more movies. um, but that's it. We are only seeing the surface level of these characters. There's this smuggler. There's this ancient like fallen prince that is sold to slavery. There's this woman who is like has a dark past about her family and how she copes by helping other people. Um, there's oh yeah, there's the general. There's a robot. There's this robot who has lost his purpose when his princess died, but then finds a more better calling protecting people from this village. There's a lot of interesting characters. Some get more character development than others, which is a common norm in movies where we'll only focus a certain few of the backstory of these characters and then gloss over the other ones with a short scene. That's kind of the norm in movies, which I kind of wish it didn't do that norm because, again, this is a Netflix movie. You could have at least risked another maybe half hour to at least explain more of these characters or at least have a bit of a conversation with them, like bonding moments on the ship, since they're making a lot of fast travel because this movie is very fast paced. It goes by like zoop, like immediately. And I was like, when it got to the conclusion, I was like, wait, how many hours do we have left of this film? And I checked 37 minutes left. I was like, we're already that close to the end? And then we just recently found out about this resistance group, these band of rebels. Um, One of them played by the excellent Jenna Malone. I will never stop talking about Jenna Malone because every time I see her getting more acting roles, I get happy. Because she was Rocket, who was my favorite character in Sucker Punch. She also had a cut scene in Batman v Superman where I was like, I mean, I understand why they cut it, but it technically was essential to the story. um, and then there was what else has Jenna Malone? She was in Hunger Games. She was in Catching Fire, and the last two movies. Yeah, and I was like, when I first saw her, I was like, Jenna! And seeing her again, which took me a while to figure out that was her, because she looks like Furiosa from Mad Max Fury Road, and then I just started taking a bigger look, and I was like, wait a minute, I actually know that voice. That's Jenna, and I keep in mind she barely had lines in the movie. She was just there for a moment, and then she's like reduced to the background. I was like, but then again, she was introduced a little later on when the movie was about to end. So I was like, God damn it. Which I, but a lot of the characters get shoved in the background after their introduction. Or like, oh hey, here we are, and now we're gonna see the next person we're gonna recruit have their badass moment, while we stand here dumbfounded. um, but yeah, I just kind of wish that we knew more about them emotionally and uh, internally, not on the surface level that we've seen in this movie. But as I said, uh, when I watched this movie is Magnificent Seven slash Seven Samurai. Both are the same movie, but you know, you get what I mean. It's a movie about them assembling a team of warriors to help fight against a big evil that's threatening a small group of people in a village. And that's what the movie is. It's just Magnificent Seven in space. But, and you start to learn more about these characters when you get to the village, when you get to the actual training the farmers how to fight, training them how to protect themselves from the coming danger, and then you see them start to show, and then you see the warriors start to show their vulnerable side, which I'm guessing Snyder is saving the whole character development stuff for the second part of the movie. I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that's true. Uh, and yeah, like I can see in this movie he's trying to establish the world, and he's trying to mainly focus on the main character, Kora, played by Sophia Boutella, and show her arc, her journey, more than the team she's assembling. And it's like, because you can see that most of the character development is focused on her, which I did like her. I did like Sophia's character being this child of war that was forced into being in this army, forced into serving a war that she didn't like participating in, and after losing her family and being adopted by some warlord tyrant, um, and sounding similar to it sounds similar to the origins of Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy, where she was taken by Thanos after her whole race was executed, or half of the race was executed, to be more specific, and it felt the same kind of like story about how Gamora went on and becoming, yeah, a child of war, and you see her struggle, you see her go through loss time and again, and seeing what made her feel like this whole life of being a warrior in this army wasn't for her. Like, you see a lot of that when she's like, when you see her interactions and being close to the princess, and there's a lot of good like scenes of knowing her story, her backstory, her origins with the flashbacks that were given to us. I say were done amazing. I say I liked it when they talked about it visually, like showing the visual storytelling of like what happened to her more than just talking and explaining it. I did like that, and you start to see like, oh, feel bad for her. Jesus. Hopefully, she gets her redemption or gets her revenge at least in this film. Like, you really do care about her mission, especially like when they take their time with the whole village. Like, it's not like other movies where I see where they do the whole Magnificent Seven or Seven Samurai story where they're like, okay, let's just immediately have that town get destroyed. Let's immediately have that town get ravaged by these awful villains, these savages, and let's go and have them be tortured or abused. in an instant. No, they honestly take their time with it, surprisingly. I was like surprised that we were still on the village stuff. And I like that we got to establish a bit of the characters of who they are before the chaos happens, which I thought was pretty good. Like they take a good amount of time in that village, especially with Kora, which it was like I like that at first she was like, "No, I don't want to be a part of this. I do not want this blood on my hands if I'm protecting them because I don't want another traumatic experience." And then all of a sudden when she sees one of the girls being sexually assaulted, well, almost sexually assaulted, she was like, "Fuck this. I'm gonna kill them all and I'm going to go to war with them." And she does her cool scene, which I like, the fight scene in that movie. And then she starts to gain the inspiration to start a team of warriors to go and help protect the village. And I do like when it does take its time because the first act took its time, and then when it comes to assembling the team stuff, it starts zipping by fast that you're like, wait a minute, we're already in this part of the movie now? I am like bewildered. What the fuck? Like I'm just like whiplashed at that point. Like, oh, we're already here at this point. We're here at this point. Because usually I'm used to movies where it's like, oh, let's learn more about this character we recently recruited. And then we get to the next scene where we recruit another member. But no, it's like, got this guy, we're good. Got this guy, we're good. Got this woman, we're good. That's what it felt like. We're good. We're good. We got them. We don't need to learn more about them. Just what they could do and who they are. That's it. We're good. Let's go. I don't know. Maybe I'm being nitpicky on that because this is a two-parter, and I'm guessing we have to learn more about them later down the future. Am I gonna make another Star Wars excuse and say that we barely knew the characters in Star Wars? Uh, I kind of want to, but I don't know. That movie. Hmm. I mean, to be fair, yeah, we knew little about Leia, and all we knew was she was a princess, and that was it. But then again, yeah, I don't know. It's I say that I'm kind of nitpicky on it, but hopefully we get more of them. I guess I'm too used to stuff that shows us more about a character recently. I guess mainly from TV shows that feel like movies and movies of recent times being like, let's tell the person's backstory immediately through an expositional flashback. And then we can move on and then say that the movie is done, the story's concluded, we did this all in one movie. I can tell that maybe Snyder is taking his time with this, and clearly he wants to tell the story in a grander way via two parts. Because if he did this movie in 4 hours, I think people would have been like, no. Then again, wasn't Seven Samurai a 4 hour movie or a 3 hour movie? I think it was. So if he's really going the Seven Samurai route, I can see that maybe he was like, the first part will be the short one, second part's gonna be the long one. Yeah, probably kind of like a Kill Bill situation where the movie was Volume One was an hour and 40 minutes, and then Kill Bill Volume Two was 2 hours and 30 minutes, I think, or 20, I believe. So maybe we will get more backstory. Maybe the whole movie will be that, where it shows like the whole training stuff, and we get to see like flashbacks of these different characters and see what they are. I mean, like, so because so far the movie was mainly more about Kora and her journey to gather these team members. And I did like that. And I am a sucker for assembling the team movies where it's like, I want you on my team. I want you on my team. Hell yeah, hell yeah. Kind of like Ocean's 11 and freaking yeah, and also Magnificent Seven, obviously, of course. I have to remember another assembling the team movie that was good. I don't know. I can't think of one right now at the top of my head after getting a few hours of sleep. Yeah, Zack Snyder's movie, I did enjoy it. I think, hopefully that the flaws of the movie have mainly on characters, for the most part, uh, could be done a bit hopefully better in the next film, which I'm hoping that he does do that, which to show more about these characters and show more about their struggles. But as of now, it's still a fun, entertaining ride to be on watching this movie. It's good to be with family or with friends to go out and watch this on the couch together with popcorn. I said it was an enjoyable time. I liked it. I liked it fine. It has promise. It has enough entertainment to tide me over. I say the critics were. I don't think this is a 20% score rated movie. I would go and I would go and say meet at the middle and say it's a 60%, 65% movie, which in my rating system I would give it a 6.3 out of 10. I say that was enjoyable. I did like it. I hope that Snyder's part two is better, uh, even better than this one, because there were a few action scenes, there were a few other scenes that we saw from the teaser trailer that haven't made it in the movie yet. So I'm looking forward to the second part on April. So anyway, this is supposed to be a Christmas episode, right? Let's get to the other one. Okay, side note before we start reviewing, in the middle of recording this video, I just looked at my phone's notifications and it looks like there's a dead meat kill count that recently got dropped today for the mean one. So I never saw it yet. I haven't seen the video yet. So if I say something similar that either, I don't know if James is the one doing it or someone else, but if he says a joke or he says something similar that I would say about my review of the mean one, it's purely coincidental because I I was already planning to watch this movie after I was done with Rebel Moon, so let it be known I was not expecting the mean one to get a kill count recently. So this is my opinion. This is what I'm saying. This is not from what the kill count has done or whatever. So here is my here am I gonna talk about the mean one. Um so I talked about this a long time ago in a video that you guys will probably never see ever again because it's now lost media. But there was like a trailer or teaser or production photos talking about someone making a horror movie about the Grinch, which sounded like an interesting idea. And of course, the Grinch was gonna be like looking like the Jim Carrey Grinch almost. And I was like wondering, okay, this might be funny. This might be pretty interesting to watch. And as I started watching the movie, uh, the film was like already at a bad start in a good way, when their child actor could not act for shit. Like the child actor just had the most dead delivery ever, where she was like, "Why, Santa? Why?" Just dead face. Even when she yells monster, it doesn't sound like she was scared or she was hateful. She was like, monster, and that was it. Way how this movie started was that the mean one seemed like this dude who just was not a killer until like the fucking mom just beat the shit out of him, and then she slipped and fell on like a spike and died on accident. And and I for a fact saw that as like, this looks like an accident. I don't think, yeah, the Grinch did not fucking kill her, or I'm sorry, the mean one, since copyright, we can't say Grinch. But like, I'm just gonna call him the Grinch. The Grinch was more like, he just was like, oh shit, I did not kill this woman. Like, it wasn't filmed like he did kill her. It was filmed like it was an accident that happened, and then all of a sudden, the Grinch started to murder people because Christmas became a time he hated because of an accidental death he didn't mean to cause at all. And this is so weird. So I was looking at like who played the Grinch, and I saw the actor's name. It's escaping my mind at the moment. But when I looked at the actor's name, I was like, well, what else has this guy done? And I was very shocked to find out that the mean one is played by the same actor who plays Art the Clown. And I was like, because I was like looking at the performance, I'm like, this is very Art the Clown like kind of performance with how he's killing people. He's doing all the Grinch isms, basically, like the little like Grinch like movements and way he walks on his tiptoes, or doing a little hand thing he does a lot. He was doing all the Grinch like stuff that I think was more emulating the Jim Carrey one more than the, Dr. Seuss cartoon. And the way he acts, the way he's smiling, even the makeup was very reminiscent to the same makeup job as the Jim Carrey one. And he does a great performance, but I was like, every time he kills someone in the most comedic way possible, it felt very like Terrifier. And what a shock, it's the same guy who did Terrifier, which was funny. I saw the year the movie came out, it said 2022, and I think that was the same year Terrifier 2 came out. So this dude did both this movie and Terrifier 2 at the same time. And so I'm like, do you think that conflicted anything? Like, do you think that he wasn't doing that much of a performance? I don't know. But hey, this man gave 100%. I think my favorite kill is that he smashed a dude so hard against the table. Guy didn't die. He just slowly pushes the spike thing that people would put orders on in restaurants, and he just like very Looney Tunes like just slid it over, and that music going like that. And he's like, okay, smashes his head in, and then starts gushing blood. I was like, that was great. That was funny. And then The funniest parts is the one where he kills a bunch of these Santa guys dressed up as Santa, and these women dressed up as like hoes, hoes, and he stomps a girl's head, but you can tell that they were so low budget they couldn't afford a fake head to smash to show it getting caved in and bleeding. So it's just a fucking wig with blood packets under it. I was like, he's just stomping a wig at this point. At this point, this movie's intentionally bad. Everything about this movie feels so low budget as shit that it's hilarious. To the point where the movie feels like a Hallmark Christmas film. No joke. There are scenes with a Jewish cop and a woman who likes Christmas or used to like Christmas, and they are both talking in this cheesy sitcom dialogue that feels like something out of a Hallmark Christmas film. And even like the girl's dad, Cindy's dad in this movie, he felt like a Hallmark parent. The way he's like, let's go and decorate the house with Christmas stuff. It's gonna be Christmas up in here, and then you see him. You see him just like hamming out the performance of being like a very whimsy dad. The way, like, once they started setting up the tree and decorating it, and then they put the star on and they just look at it, he just says noise, not nice. He literally says noise. Like in that Key and Peele sketch. Noise. That's what it felt like to me. And he has this moment where it's like, let's decorate this house. And then when he decorates the house, he grabs the Christmas decorations box and he does this weird thing where he just looks at his daughter and then does this turn of his body without moving his head and looking like he was a giddy schoolboy ready to go and hang out with his friends, like like that. Kind of like that stupid kind of like voice. It was so weird. I was like, this dad is ridiculous, and I'm gonna be sad if he dies first. And he does die first in the movie. It was like, damn. I was waiting for the comedic potential of this father. Every actor felt like they're from a Hallmark Christmas movie. It feels like it's so much. Like everyone just feels goofy as shit. Even like this one line I thought was weird because I don't know where the hell this came out of left field, where the dad's like, hey, he looks at the deputy, he's like, you celebrate Christmas? And he's like, oh, I light a candle every night for 8 days. And he's like, you're Jewish. What gave it away? Was it the nose? I was like, what? I was like, no, because we know that you celebrate 8 nights for Hanukah. It just felt like so out of left field that the dude thought that the dad was being racist, thinking he thought he was Jewish because of his nose. No, he wasn't. It was so weird. And then there's like this running gag where he constantly tries to call Sydney Miss, but ends up calling her ma'am, which she doesn't like. And she's like, ma'am, miss, ma'am, miss. I was like, Jesus Christ. There's also this thing that I don't think any parent does with their daughter or children when they're like 20 years old, maybe older than that, is doing rock, paper, scissors to see who would take out the fucking trash. I don't. Just what? Just what? It was so ridiculous. Everything about this was so bad but funny. Like, there was some horrible audio mixing issues with this movie. I don't know if it was my copy in general, but there was like bad audio mixing. Like there was like the horror music mixed with the Christmas music in this diner scene, and it just felt like the audio was um conflicting with each other, trying to match up the volume audio, and it kept like fighting each other to see which music can be the loudest, and it just comes off as like annoying because it's mixing with the music audio with the sound effects of the killing audio that I felt like that it's like, huh, this is weird. I don't like this. Like someone was not doing good on the audio department. Clearly the mixing was terrible. The sound mixing was bad in that scene, but the rest of the movie it seemed okay. But again, this is a low budget as shit movie where the news reporters look like they are on a green screen, terrible green screen background, not trying to be a news channel. Like it felt like the scene from Birdemic where they show the news reporters and it just looks like they're just filming it in their room instead of like an actual news studio, which every single one of them is, which that's I thought was funny, especially with the stock images on the TV and the poorly photoshopped. I laughed so hard when they showed the poorly photoshopped jobs of like these clearly stock images of people in mountains that weren't even the same mountains as the ones shown in the movie, and it just shows this poorly Photoshop of the Grinch like in the background of the trees, looking mischievous, like "Ooh, I'm gonna get you." I, it was so dumb. Oh, that's not even the kicker. This bad Photoshop is not even the kicker. The kicker that made me laugh so hard because I was like thinking, did they intentionally knew that that they had bad CGI, they had bad green screen? It was the fucking fake CGI fish on this fishbowl that's in the counter of a fucking hospital. Two poorly rendered CGI fish that are clipping away out of the glass fishbowl that's in the scene, and you can, and you can see it doesn't match the color grading at all. It doesn't match the scene's background at all. It just looks brighter than everyone else in the room. Yet they were so impressed with that shot, or they knew it was so bad, they zoom on the clearly CGI fish just to make just to let you know that there are fish in this scene. It was so bad. It was so stupid. I was laughing so hard at how bad this movie was, which I wasn't looking for high cinema. I wasn't looking for an actual good slasher movie with the Grinch. I just wanted some good old schlock. And I got that. I got that with that movie, with the performances, with the stupid dialogue. I got that. This was a movie that knew, like, this premise is not going to be taken seriously, so let's just be comedic with it. And let's get the actor who played Art the Clown to be the Grinch. Because that is a perfect casting choice to do that. And it works perfectly as a comedy, not like that god awful Winnie the Pooh horror movie that was made. God, I hated that movie. That was a terrible film. It was bad. But this one knew what it was. They knew what they were doing. We're a parody movie that's making this character into a slasher, so let's just do that. And it's hilarious. It's stupid, it's hilarious, and I enjoyed a lot of it. It does have moments where it drags in its third act, which kind of gets you a bit bored for a little bit, but it picks up immediately, so that was good. I did like a few things about it. It was just a low budget, ridiculous B movie that was a good, enjoyable hour to kill. That was it. And I had no problems with it. It was just a stupid movie. Oh, and if you can already guess, how does the Grinch die in this movie? He dies from his heart growing too big because he was killed with kindness. I was like, Jesus. She forgave. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, well, didn't expect that to happen. I think that was the best kill in the movie. His heart exploded. And the funny thing is, you see the back of his Santa outfit, and you see the heart where it exploded. It is literally shaped like a heart, like not like a real heart, but a fucking cartoony heart. I thought that was a funny detail there. um, there was one scene that didn't make any fucking sense. Is that the mayor of the town is driving her car. All of a sudden, it breaks down, and for some reason, it just randomly plays Christmas music. And the volume gets turned up loud. Which I was like, wait a minute. Radios don't fucking do that unless something supernatural is happening. And the movie didn't establish that the Grinch had supernatural abilities to do that. Like, he's trying to find the smoke. Just weird. But it is it was okay. It was ridiculously funny and stupid, and I enjoyed a lot of it. It did sequel bait us for like, hey, the Me one might return. I was like, how? Like, how do you make a sequel out of this? This ridiculous movie. And I think the movie really did end in like a Hallmark movie, because the couple gets together in the end and then it pans away like, hey, holiday Hallmark movie, la 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 la. God. I bet you these might have been Hallmark actors. They had to be. They were just paid this money to like, hey, we're doing a horror comedy where the Grinch is a killer. Do you want to be a part of it? Since I know you have done a bunch of Hallmark movies, but hey, do you want to be a part of this? And they're like, okay. And and they just did it. Oh, God. What I give this movie 4 out of 10. Like, it's not like a movie I would watch again. I mean, if I want to watch a movie that I like that's The Grinch and it's live action, I would watch the Jim Carrey Grinch movie. because, well, that's part of my childhood, and I watched that version of The Grinch more than the actual cartoon. So that one is the Grinch movie I like to do. It's a tradition. It's a tradition. Each Christmas, I always watch The Grinch, Batman Returns, Die Hard, Home Alone. Those are my Christmas picks I always choose. Uh, but yeah, so the mean one, it was fine. That was the, what was it, the second horror Christmas movie I've watched this year, so I don't know if there's more I should check out. I don't know. I was already planning to watch The Mean One and Black Christmas this year because I wanted to get a review out, and I did. Here we are. We did it. It's fine. If you're looking for a movie that's a pure trash horror film that doesn't take itself too seriously, and you want to get drunk with that spiked eggnog of yours, The Mean One is a enjoyable time, drunk or with friends. But friends would be preferable because you can riff on the movie and laugh about it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you Wolfpack in the next one. Ciao, darlings. Remember, you are loved.
Ow, ow, ow! Ow! Ow!